Hello and welcome to the SPAR, the Smart People African Roundup. We give you intelligent review of business, economics and finance happening around Kenya and the rest of Africa. And this is our weekly roundup. Hello and welcome to the SPAR, Smart People African Review. This is the first edition. Here we give you intelligent, data-backed analysis of economic and financial issues affecting Kenya and the rest of Africa. Welcome. So for this first review, we are going to look at what has happened in the past 1 week. This is a big conversation, and I would love that you guys have just to do your own review and try and have as much information about this topic as possible, because it is going to be with us for a long time to come. The BRICS. So what are the BRICS? The BRICS basically represent 5 countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. These are higher middle income countries that have decided to come together informally to foster cooperation and economic development amongst emerging markets. Emerging markets are basically markets that are trying to join the league of developed world, and they are having a significant impact on the current global economy. So what happened this past week? This past week, of course, there was the annual summit that they usually have, and this time round it was in South Africa on the African soil. And the main conversations that were happening were, of course, issues to do with having new member countries joining in, and of course the standard currency, a uniform currency amongst them, and of course finally, just how much more can they push this agenda, and how many more countries can they include, and basically what is the future of the BRICS. So in South Africa, they were trying to just figure out having a conversation on the new members, the conversation on the currency, and finally the future of the BRICS, and how soon can they start taking action on the specific things that they are talking about. Now, for those people who don't know what the BRICS stand for, I might have given you the breakdown, but this is the history. After the Second World War in 1945, the countries that then had a sit down and came together to discuss about the future of the world. And they had a common feeling that there is a need for cooperation, both in humanitarian ways, both in fostering peace and tranquility, both in financial advisory and just financial guidance and support, and of course development. And they came up with 3 institutions that have done significantly a lot of work to just make sure that the world is where it is today: the IMF, the World Bank, and the UN. Those 3 institutions were tasked with the duty of the IMF, of course, was to steer the financial cooperation side of it. The World Bank was to engage in development, especially on countries that had been adversely affected by the World War and developing countries. And of course, the UN, which was supposed to foster tranquility and peace. And it was also just to uphold international law and support, and of course, protection of human rights. That is what they were tasked with. Now, over time, they have done great. I personally think they have done great. But the international community, the rest of the international community, have started having a separate view. Now, this is because when these organizations were formed, majority of the people who sat down to come up with, of course, the charter, the formation of these organizations came from developed countries. And for a very long time, they have been very instrumental in making decisions and deciding policies and just coming up with policies that will steer the direction of the global economy and the social aspect of it. Now, emerging markets started feeling like some of the things these organizations and institutions have been focusing on have not been directly helping or in support of what the global economy needs. They feel like there are so many issues that are not being addressed appropriately, and even if they try to raise them, they are not being heard, because the people sitting at these organizations are they are developed countries, and they are only steering their selfish needs and forgetting to help these other countries. And now, these emerging markets sat down and look at themselves. They have all it takes for them to steer international cooperation, especially when it comes to the economy, especially when it comes to social matters, and of course, the financial matters. And that is why Russia, which is a higher middle income country, as categorized by the World Bank, sat down and brought together the other countries, and they came up with the BRICS. Now, what do they intend to achieve? Like I have said, the only basic reasons why these countries are coming together is because they feel that they have something to say in the global economy. They are a force, they are an engine, and they need to come up with ways in which they can foster cooperation, where they feel like equals, where they can have a common currency, where they can address issues like poverty, they can address issues like terrorism, issues like climate change at a level playing field. And that they have done that, including even inviting new members into the group. So why is it so much of a conversation then? Why do they look like a danger? Now, the BRICS look like a danger because 25% of the BRICS, 25% of the world population come from the BRICS. Only 5 countries, and they provide for 25% of the world population. 40% of the world GDP is contributed by these 5 countries. In short, the economic activity of the world, 40% of it happens within these countries. So they definitely have a say. And if anyone hears that they are sitting down somewhere and having a conversation, it is important for people to know what are they discussing. So this past week, they were discussing how to bring new boys in town, and they have invited the following countries. They have invited Saudi Arabia, Argentina, Iran, Ethiopia, UAE, and Egypt. Now, I'm quickly going to go through these names and just trying to figure out what will be the reason why these countries were invited. From where I sit, if I was to choose countries for me to include in the BRICS, I will definitely go for further countries that have a big population, because I want as many people as possible to belong to this bloc. I will also go for countries that have a very high GDP. I will also go for countries that have a big landmass, especially agriculturally viable landmass. I will go for countries that have natural resources. And of course, I will go for countries that are very high on information and technology. Now, when I look at the countries they have selected, I believe that those are the same metrics they used to take these countries. Number 1, Saudi Arabia has a significant landmass, and almost 80% of Saudi Arabia is agriculturally viable. Yeah. Saudi Arabia also, among those countries, has the largest GDP. So that one is a bona fide rightful member of the BRICS. They should be there. I'm looking at Argentina also, where I'm seeing a case of big landmass, agriculturally viable landmass, and because population and natural resources, they don't really have much. When I look at Egypt, Egypt is among the top 5 largest country by population in Africa. It has a population of 110 million. So if you are looking at Africa, you'll either go Nigeria, Egypt, or Ethiopia, because Ethiopia has 123 million people. Nigeria has 213 million people. As to the reason why they didn't select Nigeria, we shall pick that conversation in another segment. But for now, Egypt, of course, it's because of the population and the landmass, because Egypt is also equally big. And Ethiopia was because population and significantly landmass. And finally, something that I noted about Ethiopia, out of the manufactured exports of Ethiopia, 13% of that is technology. It is the highest among all those countries. None of those countries beats Ethiopia. So strategically, Ethiopia has positioned itself technologically as a strategic partner. And of course, when they came to Africa, it will definitely be one of the reasons why they selected Ethiopia. It has many reasons as to why it should be. The GDP of Ethiopia is not that great, but I'm sure with the population, with the technology, and with the cooperation, then it will be supported significantly. Of course, Iran is there. Everyone knows natural resources. Yeah, there is oil in that country, and almost 8.8% of the GDP of Iran comes from natural resources, and it is significantly big by landmass, and almost 29% of that land is agriculturally viable. People don't know, but agricultural viability of land guarantees people food security. If a block is going to be taken seriously, then you need to be able to cooperate, especially on the food front. Countries need to know that they can easily access food in the event that they face drought and all that manner of things. So food security is very important, and I'm seeing a lot of that amongst the countries that they have selected. So UAE is the challenge. I have not seen much. I don't know the significance of UAE in that list. But guys, you can give me your comments. What views do you have concerning the UAE? Because they don't rank very significantly in terms of all those factors that I've considered for the rest of the countries. And I would love to know what you guys think. So in terms of what happened last week, the BRICS, I have given you a quick roundup of what the BRICS basically are. And these are the things we need to look out for in the next few years. The 2024 summit and the 2025 summit. Number one, they're looking at, of course, a common currency. And that is what is still proving to be a challenge, but they have a target of 2025 to have a common currency. A common currency where countries will be able to borrow in their domestic currencies. And that will be huge, guys. Anyone who can internalize that, then you know how significant that is. Currently, so many countries are exposed to the US dollar, and they are having very unfair lending practices because they are suffering changes in their exchange rate, because the dollar, their local currencies shifts significantly compared to the dollar, and since they have borrowed in dollar, it puts them at a very bad position when repaying these loans, and the state of debt continues to degrade as time goes by as a result of loans that have been given in dollar form. So the currency, the common currency, of course, the bank, they set up a bank that is going to bring this, is going to foster the financial inclusion amongst these countries. That one is also significant, and they have already promised a significant amount to be deposited to that bank. Yeah, and then of course, finally, the new members that have been brought in. Yeah, just how to see how they're going to cooperate, especially Saudi Arabia and Iran. It is projected that these two countries are going to gain significantly by being members of the BRICS, because now they will have to work together in a way, and it will be very interesting to see that. So that is the summary, my people. Just remember, this is a weekly segment where we'll be looking at what has happened in the week, and we give you a clearer picture for those who don't know, so that you understand. With time, we shall get better, but I'm asking you to subscribe. We want to grow this channel to as big as we can, and we want many people to come and share their ideas and to come and just give us their input, so that we can we can grow, and we can educate people and empower people through knowledge that we have been given by God. So remember to subscribe, like the view, just comment, give me your views, your feedback and all that. I will be very glad to receive and also to react to them. Thank you guys, and see you next week for the second edition of the weekly roundup. Thank you.